Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, audience discretion is advised. Hey everybody, Future Jay here. Normally, we'd be using this first section of the podcast to talk about what we've been interested in the past week. However, our talk on Akira Kurosawa went about 2 hours. Actually, it went more than 2 hours, but it's something that I think we had a lot of passion for, and it's something that we wanted to present in full. So what we're going to do is that normal preamble, we're going to push that off for another couple days from now for a rest stop. And now we present here, full, mostly unedited, our discussion on Akira Kurosawa and 4 of his finest films, Ron, Throne of Blood, Yojimbo, and Rashomon. With that, host Jody, take it away.
So we're doing something a little bit different. We have not done this before on the show, but except for with music. And even then, we all listened to the same thing. We each took a movie and watched it separately, a different one. And we're all going to discuss some of the best works done by Akira Kurosawa. Mm-hmm. Mostly known for, at least in the West, for Seven Samurai.
And the notion of the samurai film genre.
And the samurai film genre really kicked it off. He had worked on some stuff before that one, but that one was the one that really, started getting a lot of traction overseas. I think a lot of that also had to do with sensibilities of people being stationed elsewhere. A lot of military people would be stationed in Japan and things like that, and especially in the 50s, were exposed to a lot of things and brought those tastes and notions over to the West. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think you get the start of the art house, the foreign art house renaissance, basically in the late 50s, early 60s with, all the, Japanese and Italian directors. Yeah. But tonight we're talking about Kurosawa films, and I'm going to start with Ron.
I will say he's did 30 films, filmmaker for over 50 years, and probably the most well-known Japanese director of all time.
Definitely. And also, coincidentally, was influenced by some Western films.
I'll definitely get into that.
And also influenced the Western genre specifically. Mm-hmm.
The Western genre changed. Like he was very heavily influenced by older Westerns, like the John Ford era.
Right.
And then after a few of his films, the samurai films, like they then were influenced mostly, like, especially like the spaghetti Western was. And like I said, I'll talk a lot about that when I get to my film.
Yes.
But, it was then, they were then heavily influenced by him.
Yeah. So, he, like for this specifically, like he pulled from a lot of Western ideas and, also European ideas, because Ron is based off of King Lear.
Yeah.
And Ron is the film I watched. Ron is 2 hours and 40 minutes. However, after the first 40 minutes of the film, you really start getting into the meat of the story. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to, unfortunately, I'm going to butcher some of these names.
We probably all will.
But the film stars, the main character is Hidetora Ichimana. I'm going to say it that way because I can't, I don't know how to pronounce these. And it stars Tetsuya Nagade as that character. Mm-hmm. And Hidetora, which is just what I'm going to call the main character, he's the warlord, aging Sengoku period warlord, who decides that he's becoming too old and he feels like, senility is starting to creep in on him. And so he has 3 sons, and they're having just a nice outing with an open tent out in the fields, with some other warlord type officials from other areas of land, and they're just having a what would seem like a non-official, but always in the official capacity of this royal kind of, Japan has almost the same sort of, if not the most, rules when it comes to like how you act in court and things like that. Very, very, very savvy on how you're supposed to, be very discreet and very honorable to people that are above you in class and things of that nature. So he is in this outing with Taro, Jiro, and Saburo. Jiro is the oldest son. Taru is the youngest son, and Saburo is in the middle, I think. This goes into play because he decides that he's too old to continue. So he wants to keep his title, but hand power over to one of his sons. And at first, when he's discussing this, immediately the other lords are just like, no, you can't do this. This is crazy. You're still in charge and you're fine. And he's adamant. He's like, no. I want one of my sons to take over. And so what he does is he puts Taro in charge. Saburo is infuriated about this. He's extremely, extremely upset. And he's trying to convey it in a way that would come off as disrespectful, but he's trying to make a point that this is not a good idea, that you put Taro in charge. And of course, the father is assuming that, oh, you want to be the one in charge. It's not at all. In fact, Saburu's, I'm going to call him his assistant, steps in and said, listen, you can't do this, my lord. You can't banish him because he's saying that, don't put him in exile just because he's speaking his mind. He's telling you how he thinks it is. And I believe with my life that he's telling the truth. The old man, the warlord, walks up to the younger man, and he goes like he's going to, like, you can go ahead and kill me now. Like, I believe so much in what Saburo is saying that I'm willing to die for it. Initially, Saburo was going to get the third castle. They're basically splitting up the land. Taru was going to get the main castle. Jiro was going to get the second castle, to the closest one to the first castle, to protect Taru's land. And Saburo was going to get the third castle. Well, Saburo gets exiled because he speaks against this whole entire situation. And so him and his assistant get exiled, and that's it. They're gone, right? And so, and there's a court jester there, and he plays sort of a role, but not really. He basically just says in rhyme what the narrative of what's happening for the audience,
which is usually the fool is a character that's throughout Shakespeare's plays and is often the person who is like kind of telling you the story and telling you how it really is. Right.
Immediately, within a very short period of time, the old man starts realizing the error of his ways. So Taru and his wife, Lady Kied, I must say Kied. We'll call her Lady Kied, or Lady Cod. That's like Lady, but Kade.
Kade, probably.
Kade, Lady Kade. That's right. That's what her name is. She's sitting there with her husband, and if you know anything about Japanese culture, especially during these period times, women typically didn't speak up. It wasn't a thing where they would say anything, and she points out, like, where's the banner? Your father's banner that basically says the title and the rank and everything like that. Well, he's like, well, I gave it to his men because one other thing that the Lord demanded was for him to keep his 30 men. So he would have his guard with him as well as having his warlord title. And she mentions to Taru, she's like, you're not really in charge if you don't have the banner and his armor. And she becomes an integral role throughout this whole entire story. And so she basically convinces her husband, Taru, who's in charge, but technically doesn't have the title of warlord, that he doesn't really have any power at all. He just lives in this castle. By the way, the castle in which they live at, the main castle, was Lady Kade's father's castle, where our main character, the old warlord King Lear figure, murdered her whole family. And she was the only one who survived, and was basically forced to marry Taru in order for her to continue on living. So she's not happy. She's never happy, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. Eventually, what ends up happening is she basically talks Taru into kicking the old man out. And so that's not a fun time. That's not a fun time for the old man, our King Lear character. So he decides, you know what? I'm just going to go to my other son who loves me more. So he goes to the second castle. He goes to Juru's castle. His first in command, which is Kuragane. Kuragane is like, you can't let him in here with his army, his 30 guys. We can't let him in here with those guys. You can let him in here, but if you let him in here with his 30 guards, how does that make you look? You look weak in front of your father, who's no longer in power. So he convinced, this is a whole theme in this movie, and then the original story that it's based on. So Kuragane convinces Juru, just listen, you can't let your father in with his 30 guards. Of course, when the old warlord comes in and here's this news, the reason Juru gives him this information, like he tells him a lie. He tells him that he received a letter from his brother, Taru, that he caused a great amount of disturbance in the first castle, so he can't allow his 30 men in. And of course, this infuriates the old warlord. But, you know, it's fine. It's fine. In fact, actually, a little piece of information I left out. This is what got him kicked out of the first castle. Taru's guards and his guards were arguing about something. So he shot an arrow into one of Taru's guards because he threatened one of his men. And so that pretty much, that was the kibosh. That was like, get out of the castle. And so he goes to the second castle. This isn't working out either, right? So he's like, fuck. And he finds out that because Sabaru is in exile, but the thing is, before these official plans went into order, these brothers were already running these castles, sort of. So Sabaru has his men at the castle, but he's not there because he's banished. He can't go back. So our King Lear character, our warlord, the old man, said, you know what? We can just go back to the third castle. Like, it'll be fine. No problems there. They go to the third castle, but before they get there, Juru and Taru's messengers go to the third castle to find out what's going on in that situation. And when they get there, Sabaru's men are leaving. They're like, we're going to go defend our warlord, Sabaru, but we're not going to keep this castle. And they just leave. That's when things start to go in motion, where like Lady Kade tells Taru, this is the time. So when the father goes to the third castle, there's no army there. He just has his 30 guards there. They get settled in, and then Taru and Juru's, both of their forces, go into the castle and murder everybody. Except for the warlord. He kind of just stumbles out and they just let him go because he's a crazy old man and he should be dead. Because this fight lasts like 20 minutes.
This is the well-known shot of him like of the warlord guy walking with the wind blowing and the and like the castle is in flames.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen, that's the part of Ron. I've never watched Ron, but that's the part that I've seen.
During the siege, though, before that happens, remember I said Juru had a right-hand man. His name was Kuragane.
Mm-hmm.
During the kerfuffle of the fight going on, Kuragane shoots an arrow into Taru and kills him. And Juru sees that his brother got shot with an arrow but doesn't know where it came from. And Kuragane is like, it's war. Things just happen, and throws the bow down. Now you're in charge, right? So now you're in charge. So they murk all of the military guys, the 30 dudes. Yeah, they took like 300 guys to kill 30 guys because these dudes that were trained by that were trained to be the warlord's guards were badass. Like they had mentioned that each one is worth 1,000 men, basically. So Spartans, you know.
Yeah.
What happens is, of course, our warlord character, our old man, our King Lear, wanders off into the desert wasteland with him and his buffoon, basically. More about that later. It plays out like you have a war drama going on, but there's more drama than there is actual war. Jiro gets back to the first castle and presents Lady Kade the scalp of her husband. And she seems very off-put by this.
Well, yeah, I would imagine.
She's extremely off-put because she mentions, I find it very unsettling that you're already wearing your brother's armor. That doesn't sit very well with her until everybody leaves. Then they fuck.
Yeah.
After they have sex, she's talking to him, and then he calls her sister-in-law, and she goes, "Sister-in-law, after what we just did?" And he's like thinking about it really hard. He's like, "But I'm already married." And she's like, "Yeah, but I'm really good." Right. She throws herself at him.
Yeah.
And they basically fuck again. And then she tells him, because he's like, "Listen, here's what's going to happen. I'll just exile my wife." She goes, "I can't really live with knowing that another woman lives after she touches you. So you need to murder her." That's Lady Sue, who at this time is off like praying to Buddha. She's very spiritual. Because much like
she likes crystals and shit.
Much like Lady Kade, Lady Sue's family was also murdered by the original warlord.
Yeah.
And only her and her brother survived. Story time. While this is all the great thing about this movie, even though it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, is there's always something happening. So you have the main story, but you have the side story because we still have like the old madman wandering the landscape. So, and he comes across Saburu's assistant. Who convinces him you had to find Lord Saburu. Lord Saburu's actually been looking for you this whole time because he wants you to live with him. And, the warlord can't stand the idea of it because of how badly he treated his son. The only one that didn't betray him, basically. And so they go wandering around and they finally find a place to stay. And they knock on this old shack and they're like, "We need to come in. We need shelter. It's raining." And you hear a very like weak voice coming from the other side of the door. And they're like, "Old woman, let us in. Like the emperor is here, the warlord is here. Like we need," and you just hear, "No, I can't let you in. I can't offer you anything for a warlord." And they basically just break in. So they break in, they're sitting around a campfire. And they come to find out that the man who sounded very weak is actually blind, right? And they're sitting there and they're talking about what to do. And the old man is having like all these like weird delusions of what's going on because he doesn't know where he is. He's completely lost. And then that's when you find the backstory that this is Lady Sue's brother and that the warlord gouged his eyes out when he was 9. But that's okay. I'm going to play this flute for you, the only thing that brings me joy.
Jesus Christ.
That's when I started to weep a little bit. This
Mhm.
movie was already depressing, and now I'm really sad.
Yeah.
While that's going on, Lady Kade is convincing Taru to, behead his other wife. And so she basically orders his right-hand man. She orders Kurogane. She's like, by the way, when you get that head, make sure to put it in salt. I want to make sure it doesn't rot by the time it gets to me. She is heartless.
Mm-hmm.
He shuts the door. They cut back to that scene a few minutes later when some other stuff is going on, and he brings back a little satchel wrapped up, and she unwraps it. It's just a statue of a fox head cut off and salt, and she gets really mad.
Yeah.
She gets really, really mad. At this point, Sanjuro and the other warlords that were at the beginning of this movie decide to team up. And in a way, basically. Like, they're off in the back in case they need them, but it's time to fuck some shit up. And so this is pretty much where we get to the near end of everything. We get like another big ass battle. And while this battle's going on, this guy brings in this package. Before this happens, they cut to this other scene right before this happens. As Lady Sue, her mistress, and her brother that his eyes gouged out were like fleeing what was happening. Her brother goes, "Oh, I forgot my flute." And Lady Sue's like, "I'll go get it." He's like, "Don't do it. I have a bad feeling about this." She goes, "Don't worry about it. Here, have this like poster of Buddha that you can't see. And you just know what's going to happen." Right. Yeah. So after they show that, this guy comes back with a little case, and you're like, that's her head.
Yeah.
And so like the guy brings the head in, and Kurogane's like standing there in the courtroom with Jiro and Lady Kade, and he's like, "This war is going on right now. We're all going to probably die, but you still needed to feel like this woman needed to die." And she just goes into this fucking hardcore rant. She's like, "I don't care. My whole family was murdered. What's happening now is exactly what I wanted to happen." And Kajuru like just fucking slices her throat. He's like, boom, which is, just another thing that's going down in this movie. And this fight happens. Everybody dies except for Subaru's army, the third son. They clean up everything, like everybody's dead except for him and his army, and like the other warlords are in the background going, "Yeah, you did it!" And then the old emperor's on the back of Subaru's horse, and they're talking, and he's like, "I just can't wait till we get somewhere where we can talk as father and son," because like by this time the old warlords finally snapped out of it. When Subaru like approaches him right before this big ass fight goes down, and they basically reconcile, and they're sitting on the back of this horse, and it's a great moment, and Subaru gets shot and falls over, and everybody fucking dies. Everybody dies. It's just a whole bunch of dying. And so, but you get to know all these characters before all this stuff goes on. And so you're just like, it just pulls at the heartstrings. Like, I pushed through a lot of the beats because this movie is methodically slow at some points. When he's walking around, stumbling around the wasteland, it can be 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, in between different things that are happening to establish like emotion and the distraught feeling that he's going through.
Yeah, Kurosawa never rushes, really.
No.
Like, you never feel like he didn't take enough time on anything. And that can be, if you have the mindset of watching like newer movies where things are happening very, very quickly. And that's with a lot of old movies. They have a slower style. So,
but when there are fights, though, there are fights.
Yeah.
because this is late period. There are guns involved as well as swords. But again, this is a very classic story that could be told in any time period especially with a culture that is heavily deeped in military. It would probably work also if it was set like in a King Arthur type or I should say Henry V kind of setting or whatever, where you have like, set in actual medieval time period and not fantastical at all, and probably do a really good job of it, because I mean it is a Shakespearean story. Maybe not originally, who knows. Plagiarism was rife back then. Romeo and Juliet, that story, not necessarily exactly, was already told like 5 or 6 times by the time Shakespeare got a hold of it. So that wasn't an original concept per se. He just put his own spin on it. Not to take away anything from Shakespeare. I mean, his stuff has survived for a reason. But yeah, so that's Ron. If you liked any of that ranting that I just did, you should check it out.
Something to bring up with this one is this is the latest movie that we all watched. This one was 1985. And this is the only one of the 4 that we watched that's in color.
Yeah.
Most of Kurosawa's movies are in black and white, but when he moved to color, like he moved to fucking color. Like, like he understood that shit. Like you watch all the shit that he's done.
This movie,
Dreams, like they are
Kagemusha, which is the previous movie to this.
This movie is the colors pops really nicely. It might not be in Technicolor, but it feels like it's Technicolor.
Because I think like each of his sons like wear a certain color, right?
So like I want to say Sabaru wears blue, Jiro wears red, and the other one wore yellow. Very, very much like your classical, like clan type stuff from old Japan, Sengoku period, and Edo period Japan. Also, one thing I learned by doing a tiny bit of research on the box office, movie broke even in Japan. Because it was at the time the most expensive movie ever filmed. It made money in different other areas of the world during that time period, and then there was a renaissance where they brought it back in the early 2000s in art houses and things like that, and DVD sales and things like that got it up quite a bit. But in Japan, it just broke even because again, it was the most expensive movie that had ever been made at that point. Because if you watch it, you can tell like that movie cost a lot of money. If nothing else, the costumes and the extras, because those motherfuckers wore real armor. So, and there was a lot of them. There was like probably 500 extras.
He was very exact how he wanted things to look, and attention to detail was a big thing. Like I said, I'll get into that when I talk about mine as well.
So, Jay, you watched?
I did. I want to tag a little and kind of go along the notion of this movie. Ron was a much greater success outside of its country,
right?
And to the point where Japan did not submit Ron as its selection for best foreign film, and that angered one Sidney Lumet, who, if you know him, is one of the great American directors of all time. Led a successful campaign to get Kurosawa named as nominated for best director that year at the Academy Awards. So just kind of this is going to be a weird pull. Shigeru Miyamoto is not the great video game designer, is not as respected in Japan as some of his other, like specifically Yuji Ori, who is the creator of the Dragon Quest series. However, outside of Japan, particularly in the United States, if you know any Japanese game designer, it's Shigeru Miyamoto. For his impact on the world of video games, not just inside of the country of Japan. So I kind of liken them both in that regard, and the fact that their impact on the world, to me, greatly dwarfs the impact they had in their own country, even though in the early, like especially in the 50s and 60s in post-war Japan, and as one of the leading people being able to express themselves in post-war Japan, Akira Kurosawa is that in a nutshell. He definitely had much more respect, much more pull in his own country in that day and age, which gets me to 1950 and to Rashomon. Rashomon, Ron, Throne of Blood, Yojimbo, all of them take place in the let me see if I get this one right. Jidageki style, which references the Sengoku Jidai, mentions the period of Japanese history during the warring clans and the Tokugawa peace that would come afterward, and pretty much goes all the way up until the Meiji restorations, good Lord, of the mid 1800s, when they were kind of forced into having to be open to the rest of the world. So Rashomon, I'm not going to be as in depth, and I'm not going to go into the plot of Rashomon as deeply as Jody went with Ron. I think because this is a movie that is a movie of first blush, you have to see this with as clear a vision of it as you can possibly can. I will speak around it. I will speak about the cinema techniques. I'm also going to compliment a lot because Kurosawa typically worked with the same people a lot.
Oh, yeah.
This is not the first time, but it is one of the most prevalent times that he worked with Toshiro Mifune,
Oh, yeah.
which you are going to hear about at least 2 more times.
Yeah,
in
Ron
this
is also
episode.
the only one that doesn't have Toshiro Mifune
Right.
in it.
Yeah, well, and they had a very strange falling out in that they did not, after a point, they just did not work, even though they were still active in the movie business. They didn't work together anymore, but they each spoke very highly of one another, but
Yeah.
they never just seemed to kind of work together again after a certain point. It was a very strange split, but
Yeah, they talk
Toshiro-
about so just really quick, I'm sorry.
go for it.
When I watched Yojimbo, I watched it with the Criterion Collection Blu-ray that I have, and there was a short, there was like a 45-minute little documentary about the making of Yojimbo, and by the time they made it, it was part of like a bigger series of like of like Akira Kurosawa. I think there was like a whole series of these, and they talk about in there where Mifune like went over with somebody else to with another couple. Him and his wife went over to another couple to Akira Kurosawa's house, and he got drunk, and as they were leaving, like he got really pissed for some reason at Kurosawa and wanted to curse him, and they were like, "Don't curse him until you cross this railroad track." And like as he like held it in until he got to the railroad track and crossed it, and then like just like God damn him, like there's constantly little things of like he was very exact, so people, and he would like yell at people, but then people were like, well, I let him do this because he works really hard. Like you see, like he's like if he needs something done and he's gonna, if he wants to do it, he's gonna do it himself. So like I think that he was very like, he could be very frustrating, but also like very good to work with. It was like a back and forth.
Yeah. Well, one of the notes that I had from Rashomon, the cast and the crew all lived together for the period of the filming, which kind of allowed everybody to kind of generate, it's like this is a good working rapport. It's almost a familial rapport.
Yeah.
And when you have someone at the director, that'll kind of lead towards maybe being, if not a father figure, then certainly a mentor figure. Certainly, I can't think of the word right now, but yeah, it certainly is a mentor, mentee with all the people in there, which is something that you see in a lot of Kurosawa's films. The mentor student relationship and how that can sometimes can run and go astray. Rashomon is a story told 4 times, and by that this movie coins the term the Rashomon effect, in that you have a single event, but it is relayed to you 4 times from 4 different narrators, which each have a different perspective on what's going on in the story. And again, to me, that's one of the reasons why I want people to kind of meet this with open eyes, because the story that is immediately told, and Toshiro Mifune plays the bandit. He is wild-eyed and crazy and also scared and vulnerable, and he does it in the same body, in the same film. And while that can be some of Kurosawa, that is also Mifune, and I want to give special props to that. This is based off of a short story called In a Grove, Ryu no Suke Akutagawa. I want to make sure I get that right. I want to make sure I honor it, because this was a fine work. This is also, the story actually comes from that gentleman's book Rashomon, which Rashomon was the gate at the south end of the highway that went from, I believe, Nara to Kyoto. And that gate specifically was in Kyoto. Now there's just a marker up where that gate once stood. That is one of the most impressive set pieces and sceneries I've ever seen in my life. It's fantastic. It's where the movie starts.
Yeah, it's
it
the
is
framing device basically.
It's in a driving rain, and the people who are talking about what happened in this movie. There's a woodcutter, a priest, and then just a wanderer, and they have their own notions and things about how the story. In fact, the woodcutters is the fourth story, which typically is in the Rashomon effect but what really happened was this. But even there's enough placed in there to where you can accept one story fully and doubt all the rest, and then another person may have a completely different interpretation and believe someone else's story over something else. It is absolutely divine filmmaking. This movie gets one of my highest recommendations. At 88 minutes, it's a quick watch. You can breeze through it. It's one of those things where everything kind of steps up. There is a fight scene. It happens twice. Again, this is the one story told 4 times. The first time that story is told, there is backing music. There's an energy to that scene there. The second time that scene is played out, there is zero music, and it is a much different fight scene. It carries a much different emotional timbre. It is amazing that you could tell the same story 4 times in the same movie and have completely different facets and ways that it looks at it. Rashomon, again, I will say, gets my highest recommendation. Some of the things that are going to carry on from this into other ones, of course, the Jirageki style, the samurai film style, but that period piece. I think a lot of that, at least, especially in the 50s and 60s, is they couldn't really tell the story of their defeat. But what they could tell was the story of another era of strife that the country could go through, that the country had gone through, and then play out modern concepts and ideals within that conceit of the Jirageki style. I think it absolutely, if you look deeper, I feel that there's things there that you can definitely do with that. This film also is the first, this is the first film that opens the door for Japanese cinema to reassert itself on the world stage. This wins the Golden Lion at the 12th Venice International Film Festival. Once that opens it up, it opens up for all Japanese filmmakers. You see other Jirageki style films come out of that spin out of this, not just from Kurosawa, not just from Toho, not just from the other people who are producing that, but it just comes. It's one of the ways Japan got reopened back to the West, at least in a. I was about to say characteristic. That's not the right word. Creative. I couldn't think of the word creative.
Yeah.
How uncreative is that? So, but no, it brings Japan's creativity back to the world, modern world at large. Again, Toshihiro Mifune. You're going to hear his name a lot of times. This man was a go-to for Kurosawa in this era of film,
Right.
and he is exceptional. Like, again, the kind of duality of what he sees himself as in his story and how other people picture him in their stories. Just a fantastic production. I want to mention Masayuki Mori. He plays the samurai. Machiko Kyo is Masago, which is the samurai's wife. Takashi Shimura, who's the woodcutter, who is kind of over everything. Another great.
He was also in Seven Samurai.
He's in Samurai as well.
He was like the head samurai in that one.
Okay, again, he had a habit of working with the same people over again, and I don't mean that to his detriment.
And he was the main character in Ikaru.
Man, geez, this is some great stuff. Again, on the I finally found the quote. We were a very small group, and it was as though I was directing Rashomon every minute of the day and night. At times like this, you can talk everything over and get very close indeed. And so, like, again, that notion of fostering these relationships, he had. I think he had very. I won't ever say positive or negative, but I will say he had very strong relationships with the people he worked with. I also, at this time, I want to bring up the cinematographer Kazuo Miyagawa. When we talk about the cinematography of Ron, the color, and how the fact that he embraced the people around him that helped bring his vision into the forefront. So they wanted to film in natural light, to the point there's a shot in this where they're walking the forests around Kyoto, and they're just looking directly up at the sun, which you don't do with a camera.
Right.
You just don't do that. And then also they wanted to use natural light more, but it wasn't really working. So they developed this way of they would get mirrors that would point the sunlight directly at people that they wanted to have in focus. There's a scene where the bandit is sleeping by the tree, this very large tree, and the samurai and his wife are coming down the road. And as they're making the turn, that light is on her extremely bright. And there's no way she could be lit that way in natural light unless something was being pointed. And it wasn't shop light or studio light. They were holding a mirror up to forward. So it's natural light in an unnatural place, which kind of gives you an idea of the kind of storytelling that's going on in this movie. So it's not just a matter of the story. It's also a matter of the technical things they did to kind of bring all these things together. Rashomon is a perfect movie. It's not the best movie I've ever seen, but Rashomon to me is a perfect movie and gets one of my highest recommendations. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is well worth the 88 minutes.
After hearing you talk about it, I do remember watching it. I don't remember if I've mentioned this on the show before, but
that's not how you remember it, huh?
No. I don't remember it all, and I'll tell you why. Because it was 18 years ago. And the reason why I remember exactly around 18, 19 years ago is because there was a television channel that's now a streaming channel that's also still a television channel that at one point, much like AMC, was a paid channel, which means there was no commercials and they didn't show fucking sitcoms on it. And it was the independent film channel.
Yeah.
And when it was good and it was a good channel, it showed samurai films on Saturdays.
Yes.
That was called just Samurai Saturdays, I think. And this is where I'd already seen Seven Samurai, but I was exposed to Onibaba. That's where I first saw Onibaba on IFC. And Throne of Blood, Hidden Fortress, and Rashomon. I do remember the concept of the story of there being like something happens and there's 4 different perspectives. But I don't remember anything else. And I own most of Kurosawa's films, so I'm going to have to now go back and watch Rashomon.
Yeah.
Because of Jay's presentation, I'm really interested in watching that again and remembering exactly what happened.
It really speaks, like, less so to morality, though morality is certainly in play in this. But it also speaks to recollection and memory and how we view ourselves and how we view, and it's told to me very honestly. And what I'll call the parentheses, the scenes that don't involve the actual action of the story, but are being talked about by the woodcutter, the priest, and the traveler, those kind of give you an idea of the world they kind of live in there. This has a happy ending for the most part, but it leaves you with questions of which one is the real story.
Yeah.
To the point where the actors were asking, so who's telling the truth? And his answer to them was, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point of Rashomon.
The whole point of this is memory, and your memory is not infallible. So that's the point. My favorite thing about Rashomon is what is different in each of the story. Because you would sometimes, like with a lot of these, you'd be like, well, of course they're telling the story differently because they don't want to make themselves the villain, and everybody's kind of the villain in their version of the story.
Yes.
So it's like, why are they telling it this way?
Yeah,
like it doesn't make sense. And that throws in more of like, well, what is the real story then? Because a lot of stuff's the same, but there's these little differences, and the little differences add up to a whole lot. And it's like, why would you tell the story this way? It doesn't make sense. So it just adds more of that ambiguity to the whole thing. And I love it when a film can have that ambiguity. It's really, man, I eat it up.
Make you question things.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's that ambiguity lets you what I call turning a film over in your brain over and over again. And Rashomon definitely, because you're like, well, they said this in their story. Why the fuck would they say that? That doesn't make any, like, if I was telling this story, I would not be telling that part. Like, what the fuck? So you're like, oh my God, what is the real thing? Like, it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I fucking love Rashomon.
Yeah. Kurosawa had a great way of adapting material that someone else wrote and making it his own. Like Rashomon is the book of stories that Ryu no Susuke Akutagawa had written, and this one is specifically in a grove. And I'm sure that story by itself can stand up because it fueled this one. But Rashomon is Kurosawa's. Like wholly, like the fact that it was an adaptation,
right,
doesn't go into like what he was able to create with this group of people and with the people behind the scenes on there. Also, shout out to this is so weird to say that. Shout out to Fumio Hayasaka, who created the music for this. Kurosawa insisted on a bolero for the lady's story, and that is one of the reasons why it was not submitted, I believe, to Cannes, because they were worried that the bolero was too close to a specific Spanish bolero, and they were worried about copyright shit.
I want to say something off of what you just said before that, and that is, Rashomon is Kurosawa's concept and idea of that story, and he molded it into his own. I want to say that that's how I feel about Ron too, because even though it says based off of King Lear, because it is not wholly ripped off of King Lear, it is his take on King Lear, using the traditions of the time period that it's filmed for. Yeah, and the characters and the way the characters would have acted and things of that nature, and so it makes the story his in a lot of ways. The concept, really, if you think about the plot, it's a plot that can be told different ways.
Yeah.
So I think that Ron is also his wholly. Any more on Rashomon, Jay?
I wonder, just to go back to Brady's point, I wonder if them framing themselves in bad ways is the way the Japanese people frame themselves to what was their police at the time, which was the occupation of Japan by the Western forces, particularly the United States. I wonder if it's maybe not that they're portraying themselves as some form of guilt on there, but also because look what I was dealing with. So I wonder if that, again, there's something that, remember this, we're talking 1950. We're 5 years off of the end of the war. The occupation, the police occupation of that. There was also, I had lost my mind. I apologize. I can't remember what I was about to say. Jody,
good.
Back to you, sir.
All right. So we started with Shakespeare. We went to a different story originally written by not Shakespeare. Don't remember the guy. I'm sorry.
Well, there's two types of people. There's Shakespeare and there's not Shakespeare.
Yeah, right. And so we go to Ethan, who's going to tell us all about Throne of Blood, which is based off of another Shakespeare story.
Yes.
Hi, I'm here still. Yes.
Yes.
So this is very unique because this is the first Kurosawa movie I've ever watched. I wasn't really exposed to it as much as y'all have been at this point in my life. So, and just another thing, y'all were talking about Mifune, and they actually came out with a documentary about him back in 2015.
They did.
He was in 16 Kurosawa films.
Yeah.
He was in
That sounds
16.
about right.
That's more than half of them, or about half of them.
Yeah.
And so the entire documentary is
More
just
than half. 30.
Yeah.
just praising his works and his dedication to his filmmaking.
Yeah.
So your story is based off of Macbeth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Throne of Blood, otherwise known as Spiderweb Castle, because that's what the title introduces it as. It opens up with absolutely nothing because no one can see shit. You're looking at a mountain with heavy, dense fog just rolling over the land. At some point, the fog starts to clear up a little bit. You still can't see anything, but then there's this music going on, playing where it talks about the downfall of a great warrior and how the land is cursed with all the spirits of the deceased. The fog eventually clears out, and there's this large mountainscape and a monument that just stands there all by itself. The only thing that says is, "Here stood Spiderweb Castle." Once you get done reading that, music continues playing, and then the fog just comes back.
Yeah.
More fog rolling. Everything clears out a little bit, and then you see a samurai riding a horse as fast as it can, into this same area where this monument was, although the monument is not there. Instead, it is this huge, giant castle. Samurai gets off of his horse, starts beating on the doors, like, "Open up! I have news! I have news for the emperor, for the Lord." Screen transition, left to right, and then you see a lord in his armor, his son right beside him, and his entire council, all sitting in a row with him. It's very ominous because when it's presented, they're all just staring at you, the watcher, like stoic expressions, no emotion whatsoever, and they're all just staring at you. And it kind of lingers for a little bit, but then it immediately cuts to the samurai that was riding on the horse, saying, "My lord, our enemies have infiltrated 2 of our fortresses. They're beginning to fall very quickly. Enemies are coming in by the hundreds, and there's not much more that we can do." And so Lord Suzuki, he asks his council, like, what should we do? Should we send more troops to assist, or should we barricade ourselves, assuming they come straight from me? The location for Spiderweb Castle is surrounded by this extremely dense forest, Spiderweb Forest, where it's like, unless you know how to navigate it, you're going to be stuck there for a very long time. And so he kind of like weighs his options, and he's also told that if we send our men into an army that is already hell-bent on victory, we will surely lose. And so he makes a decision, fortify our defenses. As soon as he says that, there is another loud yelling coming from outside of the castle. It says, like, "Another messenger has come from the fortress." And all of a sudden, going from the one messenger saying, our fortress is in trouble, we're about to lose this battle, another messenger comes saying, like, "My lord, the great Commander Washizu of the first fortress has fended off all enemies from the first fortress, and he is slowly making his way towards the others to hold the enemies at bay." And then another messenger comes saying, like, Washizu and his friend Commander Miki, they're battling the enemies. They're a 2-man army, and they're defeating everyone. They will surely be victorious. The Lord hears all this and says, "Bring them here. This is time for celebration and victory." He's kind of elated. He's not having this army on his shoulders anymore. And so it immediately cuts to Commander Miki and Commander Washizu, who is played by Toshiro Mifune. It is a good, solid 10 minutes of them riding their horse into this forest, into this dense fog, and saying, like, they're trying to get to the Spiderweb Castle. They're trying to report back to the Great Lord. All while they're talking about this and writing, they hear like weird, ominous, like cackling, like an evil laughter. And Washizu says, "Oh, I don't know if this is an enemy or if this is an evil spirit." Miki, he's more so like optimistic about it, saying, "Whoever it be, may they fall to my mighty bow, and you to your to your arrows." And so they ride off into the forest with no direction of where to go, but they're gung-ho on finding the castle. So they continue going, and they get to this area where it's like very dense, like trees, and off to the side of their path, they see this like bamboo cage with a figure like sitting inside of it singing, and also like spinning a wheel with some silk on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of like creep up next to it, and they continue to hear the singing, and it's the same song as the opening, where it's talk about the demise, talking about how those that have perished are haunting these lands. So ominous figure finishes the song, and she's kind of like tears open the door to this bamboo cage and says, "Who are you?" The only thing the figure says is, "Ah, you do not know me, but I know you, great Rashizu, the soon-to-be leader of the North Garrison." And he kind of like laughs at it, like, how can that be if I'm the commander of the first? And says, the figure continues to say, "Don't you worry, you will soon be the leader of the North Garrison, and will soon be the next lord of the castle." Miki, he hears this and says, "You know so much about him, what of me?" and basically saying, I also know you, Miki, who will soon be the lord of the first fortress. Miki goes on to say, well, am I also destined to be lord of the castle? The figure says, no, you will not be greater than lord of the North Garrison. However, your son will soon one day become lord of the castle. And so they're kind of like looking at each other in bewilderment. And all of a sudden, a great gust of wind kind of like blows into the cage. And the next thing you know, the figure is just gone.
Mm.
So they go into this bamboo cage. They kind of like tear down the back, and they search around behind the cage. And the camera kind of like zooms in on them as they're like exploring behind it. But once they turn around, the camera zooms back out, and the entire cage is just gone. And like the fog is continuously rolling in on the ground. And they're exploring the back area, and there's just these piles of samurai corpses, skeletons, swords everywhere, helmets. And they kind of like, they look at each other as like, we need to leave. We need to leave now before we encounter another spirit like this one. And so they eventually get out of the forest. They're continuously riding in the fog. They're more so on the mountainscape as earlier. And they're being turned around every which way until the fog eventually clears up and they see Spiderweb Castle. Now, they've just finished backing off this entire army, threatening all fortresses. And so they decide to take a little bit of a rest before they go celebrate their victory. They're kind of like talking about what they experienced, saying, oh, pleasant to meet you, future leader of the North Garrison. Pleasure to meet you, future leader of the castle. And they both laugh at it. And then once they're done laughing, they kind of like have the realization set in, is like, do I really want this? Is this something that I actually want? Or is this just something an evil spirit is saying that will happen one day? Not necessarily premonition, but kind of like a bluff to think that I could aspire to such a thing. And so they make the decision to keep it between themselves and to not mention it again. They get to the castle, and everyone is ready for celebrations with them. But before they can partake in anything, the Lord wants to congratulate the both of them. Washizu walks up to the Lord. The Lord says, because of your great commitment to my kingdom, I now grant you leader of the North Garrison. And looks at Miki, presents Miki with being the lord of the first fortress. Both of them are kind of like absolutely shocked of what has happened, thinking, oh, the great spirit is the prophecy from this forest spirit is coming true. And they both kind of realize, well, he's going to be the next lord. So what happens to the present lord? We then see them walk away. Everyone's getting ready to celebrate. And then there's another screen transition where it is Lord Washizu in the encampment of the North Garrison. He's with all of his delegates, and he's also with his wife there. Him and his wife, they have a conversation regarding the possible future, seeing how the first premonition came true that he was leader of the North Garrison. And his wife basically says, how are you certain that, like, basically convincing Washizu that you need to do whatever you can to make sure your prophecy comes true? Because what if Miki turns his back on you and tells the Lord, hey, he has aspirations to be the next Lord, and so he's going to do anything he can to make that happen. So basically trying to convince Washizu, saying that, like, you don't really know what he's going to do to prevent you from moving forward. And he's chalking all this up to nonsense, saying, like, no, Miki is my childhood friend. He would never do such a thing to me. We've been there for each other through thick and thin. He is not going to betray me. And so they have this kind of like back and forth, and with the wife saying, like, but do you truly know him, essentially? There's then word from his delegate saying, my lord, the great lord from the camp is on his way here. So he's struggling to get everyone together, file in formation, be ready to present yourself to the great lord. They eventually come inside. They come inside his encampment and basically says, Inui's men, who are the ones that attack the fortresses, they are constantly sending spies in here. So Lord Suzuki is going to make camp in Washizu's area. While Suzuki's in North Garrison, he has elected Miki to be like the watcher of the main castle. He said this final word. Everyone goes to their respective places. It cuts to the middle of the night. Washizu's delegates, they're getting ready to. They're preparing the sealed chamber for Washizu because Suzuki is staying in the main bedroom because he's a great lord. He has all of his guards protecting the room, standing on watch, making sure no one's trying to have ill intents against him. Washizu and his wife, they're talking, and his wife is basically saying, now is the perfect time for you to take your role as the leader. Miki is up in the castle. The great lord already sees him greater than you. The prophecy says that you are to be the next lord, not Miki. So the delegates come into the room and says, hey, your new chamber is ready for you to sleep. The wife starts asking, thank you. What of the guards protecting the great lord? And they say like they're ever so vigilant. They're ready to stay up the entire night to make sure nothing happens to them. She decides, okay, well I'm going to give them some sake so that way they can have a little enjoyment during the night watch. And so she goes into a back room, and she stays there for a good minute and comes out with a large pot of sake. Cuts forward a little bit. They're in their room. They're in their new sleeping chambers. It cuts to the wife looking out the window, and all of the guards for the High Lord are completely knocked out. They're fast asleep. She eventually grabs one of the spears for one of the guards and brings it back into the chamber, and basically says, "My husband, this now is your time to act." Washizu is very nervous, saying like, "They're going to know it was me. How can I? There's no way that I can get away with this." And the wife is convincing him, "Yes, you can. The prophecy says you are to be the great lord. Go in there, kill the lord, and blame one of his guards, saying like he is a spy because they've already established that there are spies in the area." And so he kind of begrudgingly takes the spear. During the interactions with the wife, Washizu has this like hesitation to do so because I feel like he fears what might happen next if he doesn't act accordingly. But he also he likes the notion of being the great lord. He likes being able to get to as high up the totem pole as he can. It cuts to him taking the guard spear from his wife and leaving the room. The wife is all alone in the room. She goes over to their sleeping area, and the next minute, the husband comes back into the room. He has this like deranged look on his face, and the tip of the spear is completely bloodied with blood soaking his hands. And so he walks over to the wife, kind of like sits down, like still gripping the spear with all of his might. The wife pries his hands open, free from the spear, takes it, goes back over to the guards that are currently sleeping, and places it in one of the guards' sleeping hands. And comes back into the room and realizes, oh, my hands are also bloodied. Let me wash this stained blood off of my hands.
Foreshadowing is a literary device.
Basically. And so
out damned spot out, I say.
And so she cleans herself off. She's looking back at her husband. He has not moved a single inch from where he sat down. And so she takes it amongst herself. Oh, someone's got to do this. She goes out into the courtyard. She opens up the gates into the main area and starts yelling, "Intruders! There's intruders in the camp!" And so the husband kind of like snaps to this, grabs his sword, runs outside, following into his wife's footsteps. The guards protecting the Lord start to wake up. The guard with the spear and with a bloodied spear in his hand wakes up, sees it, and Washizu runs over to the guard and stabs him into the heart. Says, "You traitor!" And he just kind of like falls to the ground. But a lot of people are not falling for this. Specifically, the the Lord's council and his son.
Mhm.
They're saying like, no, it was not. There was no traitor. It was you. And so they start to gather up everything and they start to flee towards the castle.
Mhm.
Washizu says, orders his men to armor up, get on your saddles, and give chase. And so there's now a section of a chase. The Lord's advisor, main head advisor, Noriyasu, and his son, they're trying to get away from Washizu and his men to get straight to the castle to report to Miki that, hey, the Great Lord has been killed. Do not trust the man chasing.
Mhm.
And so this is a good 10-minute chasing because they're going from the North Garrison into the spiderweb forest. They're trying to navigate everywhere and get to the castle. But Washizu and his men, they're like right on their trails, like 3 minutes behind them. It keeps cutting from Washizu and the son and Washizu, and you can see they're directly in the background, so they're not that far ahead of them.
Mhm.
So Noriyasu and the son, they get to the castle's gates and they start banging like, open the door, open the door. The Lord has been killed, open the door now. No one is opening it whatsoever. And Washizu sees this and says, they're not being let into the castle, shoot them down before they escape. And so his men start shooting arrows at them. They hit the son gets hit in the arm, the advisor gets hit in the leg, but they eventually like escape.
Mhm.
Washizu goes up to the gate and tries to enter, but again, no movement whatsoever. His wife sends a messenger to them at the castle saying, hey, Miki is not going to allow you to enter the castle. Come back and bring the Lord's corpse so that way he can be so that way the funeral can commence and be allowed to enter the castle.
Mhm.
So his men go back to the encampment, grab the Lord in a coffin, and bring it back to the castle. Only now Miki opens the gates and allow them to come inside. Everyone inside the castle, they're in formation for mourning. Everyone's bowing to the fallen Lord, and Miki and Washizu, they have a conversation, basically saying like, so with the Great Lord fallen, it will now be your responsibility to be Lord of the castle. They share the sentiment that the spirit's future is coming true, but to what cost? Basically, they kind of continue in silence. Miki also says that the Lord's wife had killed herself because she does not want to see another person being the Lord of this great castle. And so we've already established that everyone but the Great Lord's son is dead. And now at this point, Washizu is going to be the next ruler of Spiderweb Castle. There's another screen transition to where it is now Washizu and his wife in the chambers of the castle, and they're basically saying like, Washizu is explaining that my reign will be over in a generation once Miki's son is fit to become the next ruler, because I'm going to anoint him as the next heir after me.
Mhm.
The wife does not like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And says, I did not soak my hands in blood for another son to become the next ruler.
Mhm.
Washizu is saying, I don't care. I do not care. This is what the future predicts, that an heir must be the next ruler. And so once hearing this, the wife says, I am with child. So he better not be the next heir. And Washizu is very torn at this
Mhm.
because he has this entire nights organized to dedicated to Miki and his son,
Mhm.
the next heir. So now
Mhm.
he's torn. Cuts back to the North Garrison. Miki is the new ruler of the North Garrison, and he's talking with his son. All the while, a white horse kind of like busts into the encampment and is throwing a frenzy, bucking all over the place, injuring all of Miki's delegates.
Mhm.
Where his son is saying, "This is an ill omen. We should not go to the camp. We should not go to the castle." Miki is saying, "Don't worry. if this is an omen, this is an omen of good fortunes. Miki-san is like, I don't care. That is the latest Lord's horse. He is wild. This is not good. And Miki explains, does not matter. All things to come will turn out to be good, for you will be the next ruler. Miki-san, he's kind of like, I still don't like this. Fast forward into the night, it's Miki's delegates kind of like watching from a watch post, and they're having a conversation about food and whatnot. And in the background, you see the same white horse break into the encampment and is running amok, causing a scene. We then head over back to the castle. Everyone's in like in the dining area. Washizu and his wife are at the head of the head of the room. All of his advisors are on the sides. There's a man acting out a kind of like a story, like dances, music, and whatnot. The Fool, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's 2 spots that are empty that are meant for Miki and his son. And all Washizu is doing is watching those seats with like hesitation and anger on his face, and while he's also sipping sake.
Mm-hmm.
The Fool, he's doing his dance, he's singing his song, he's telling a story, to the point where he mentions betrayal.
Yeah.
And Washizu's like, stop this now. Do not do this again.
That happens in Ron too.
Mhm.
It happens more than once in Ron.
Yeah.
Where the fool's like, I'm telling you to your face. And the
Mhm.
king's like, or the warlord's like, I don't fucking shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of like scared, and he like crawls back over to his seat, eats his rice.
Mm-hmm.
And so goes back to Washizu, and he's constantly like darting back and forth from the empty seats and everyone else in the room just sipping his sake. He looks back over to the empty seats, and he starts flipping the fuck out.
Mhm.
Like saying, like just starts yelling, gets up from his seat, starts running into the corner behind him, just yelling, "How dare you mock me? Why are you just sitting there mocking me?" And we go back, the camera pans back over to the empty seats, and it's Miki, but he's like very pale.
Mm-hmm.
He's in unusual garments that he's not supposed to be wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And cuts back over to Washizu's like the face of terror in him, saying like, "How dare you mock me? Get out of here, you!" Pans back over to the seats. Miki is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Washizu's wife is saying like, is trying like standing up, trying to calm him down. Was like, "Don't worry, everybody. He gets like this when he's had too much to drink. Nothing is wrong. Everything is all right." And so Washizu, he kind of like sees this. He realizes, okay, the seats are empty. No one is there. I've startled all my other guests, and he kind of like goes along with it. Says, I surely must have had too much to drink. He gets his little cup, gets some more sake in it, and raises a glass to everyone to drink. Takes a sip, looks back over, and he just starts panicking again. Like, I told you to leave. He grabs his sword right behind him, takes it out of its sheath, and starts hacking at the empty seats. Everyone has like gotten up, gone to the opposite side
Well,
of the
yeah,
room.
man, just
Yeah.
took a samurai sword out and started brandishing it
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah. Just hacking at absolutely nothing. There's rice
That's a
flying.
Hanzo Hattori sword.
Mhm.
And so basically he calms down,
Mm-hmm.
not really, to where he's not slashing anymore, and his wife dismisses everyone. It's like, it is all right. You may retreat for the night. Everyone kind of like leaves and whatnot.
Yeah,
You're
you-
allowed to walk away from the maniac.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to like calm him down, but then she gets startled
Mm-hmm.
and says, and turns around and goes, "Who are you?" And there's a man in armor, the same armor that of Washizu's clan,
Mm-hmm.
and he's holding something wrapped in garments on his side. Walks over, places it on the ground, and says, "I have news for you," and starts to unwrap the garment. But Washizu says, "Don't do that."
Mhm.
And the unknown messenger says, Miki is dead, basically.
Mm.
Miki is dead. And the wife says, "And what of the son?" The messenger says, the son was greatly wounded, but he escaped.
Mm-hmm.
So basically saying he knows that Washizu sent his guy to kill Miki and the son.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The wife leaves, and Washizu, out of anger because he could not prevent Miki's son being the ruler,
Right.
kills the messenger.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And with nothing but Miki's head wrapped beside the corpse.
That's 2 Shakespeare interpretations, 2 beheadings. All right, go ahead.
So Washizu in his room by himself. There's a stand. It has his helmet and his sword, and he's just kind of like yelling in anger, yelling in sadness because he just killed his childhood friend.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like mournful, but also anger and just yelling. We then have a woman enter the room saying, Lord, there's news about your wife, because she just said that she is with child.
Mm-hmm.
Saying like there's been complications with your wife. Your child was born stillborn.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
And your wife's health is also of question.
Uh-oh.
He basically tries to like go find the wife, but he's stopped at every way by the like the doula, trying to like block his every way. Like, Lord, please do not go to her right now. There's now all of a sudden words that, hey, Inui's army, they're back. They're taking over the fortresses again.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the late Lord's son, Miki's son, and the late Lord's head advisor, they're taking over the fortresses one by one. Nothing is stopping them.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of panics at this point because he has his wife in critical condition. His son is no longer alive.
Right.
And he has this incoming army knocking down his doors.
Mm-hmm.
And so he orders, get my armor, get my horse. And he traverses back into Spiderweb Forest.
Mm-hmm.
All the while, there's this music that's playing. There's the heavy fog, and there's the evil cackling again.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to the same area where he once found this evil spirit.
Yeah.
Saying nowhere in sight, yelling, "Spirit, show yourself." The spirit comes out and says, "Hello, Lord. You do not look so happy, do you?" And basically saying, Miki's son has come for revenge. Basically saying, is there any way that I can get out of this alive? To which the spirit says, rest assured, you at this point forward, you will never fail in any battle you participate in. The only way that you fall is if the great trees of Spiderweb Forest come attacking. And so he takes this saying, so I'm invincible, basically. How can a forest attack me? They are grounded. They are large. They cannot even move an inch. So he goes on to he takes this this new hubris, saying, "I'm invincible. Nothing can defeat me."
Mm-hmm.
He goes back to the castle, where basically all of his advisors say Noriyasu is leading Inui's army. And they know how to get here now. We don't have the force to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
And Washizu makes an announcement to his troops saying, rest assured, prophecy has been given. The same prophecy that said I was going to be Lord has said that I shall not fall unless the great trees themselves attack. And basically saying, as long as I fight, we will not lose.
Mm-hmm.
And he rallies everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's throwing up their spears into the air. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's go, Lord, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Cuts to that night. All the watchers are basically saying like they've surrounded the entire castle, but they don't seem to be making a move at all.
Mm-hmm.
Cuts to night. They're still watching. It's really hard to see them at night, but still no immediate movement around the castle that they could see.
Mm-hmm.
And so it cuts back to Washizu. Him and his advisors, they're all clad in their armor, whatnot. They're having drinks, and all of a sudden, all of these ravens just start flying into the main area. His lead advisor says, "This is an ill omen. We should avoid this." Washizu in his Hebrew says, "No, This is an omen, but it's a good one. Are these trees? They are absolutely not. I'm still victorious in
Absolutely
the end.
not trees.
No,
So he continues sipping his sake with one of the ravens on his shoulder pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It gets to the next morning. Everyone, he's sitting in his chair. He's trying his best to stay awake, but he's kind of like dozing off to sleep. When there's a loud yelling coming from his wife's quarters.
Mm-hmm.
He immediately like gets up, goes over there. Every which way, he's blocked by his wife's maidens. They bow. They get on their hands and knees in respect. Washizu gets to the quarters and kind of like moves away the bamboo the bamboo rack, and all the wife is doing is sitting down and washing, like doing a hand motion of like washing her hands, but there's no water anywhere.
Yeah.
And all she's saying, like, my hands are stained with blood, why won't it come off? Like it reeks a foul odor, but why won't it go away? And even Washizu, he moves the empty bowl away, but she's still constantly doing like the hand washing. She's like mournful in this, like very, like sad, distraught.
Yeah.
And then there's all these, as he's trying to figure out what's wrong with his wife, there's yelling coming from the watchtower saying,
this, by the way, is my favorite of like version of this scene. This is so good.
Like there's movement from outside of the castle. Shizu, he runs over there, and he's expecting to see this entire army come in one large wave, one large motion. A samurai on horseback. No, he peers out through like the ice, like the arrow slits. He sees the trees walking towards the castle. He starts flipping the fuck out.
Of course.
The trees are walking. He is now going to fail. Miserably. The spirit's fortune has come true once again. He is facing certain doom, and so he has absolutely no idea what to do. He is terrified of the outcome. His entire army is in the courts watching him, and he tells them to arm yourself, go out there and fight. No one moves.
Well, of course, because he stated earlier,
yeah,
as long as the forest doesn't move, we're good.
Yeah.
And so he says, what are you doing? I told you to move. And as soon as he says that, an arrow is shot towards him. It misses, but it's still shot towards him. And he says, how dare you? This is high treason. How could you do this to your lord? When the bowmen say, and what did you do to yours? As there is now a flurry of arrows shooting towards him.
Yeah.
There is
such a good fucking scene.
Oh yeah.
He turns one way. There's arrows hit the wall right in front of him.
Arrows
Turns
everywhere.
around, another flurry of arrows. He eventually gets shot in his shoulders.
Yeah.
There is a band of marksmen underneath him, under the stairways, shooting upwards towards him. He eventually gets to the top of that staircase, and he's covered in arrows on his body, on his in his shoulders. And he turns, and there's an arrow that goes straight through his neck. And he kind of like he stands there in bewilderment. This is me. This is the end. I don't remember if he falls or if he just like stumbles down, but he gets down the staircase. He is in the court looking at his clan. He goes to take out his sword, but he eventually succumbs to his injuries and falls over. At this point, we then get Inui's army invading the castle. And again, this dense, heavy fog, which, by the way, was covering the trees. Inui's army had trees on large carts. There were people holding like shrubs and walking with them. They were the trees. And
they were obfuscating.
And the large fog kind of like rolls over everything once again. That same music that the spirit was singing, the same one at the beginning, starts playing again. The fog clears again, and everything is gone. The castle itself is gone, and we are left back with the monument that only says, "Here stood Spiderweb Castle." The end.
the prophecy came true.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Well, I mean, thing about like, the foreshadowing and the prophecy is that, it's going to come to fruition. So in this story, and they fight so hard to mold it into the way they want it to end up, and it doesn't end the way they want it to.
No, it does not.
And just like in Ron, and just like in Lear, Lady Kade, it's a woman is the downfall. I mean, this is like an old story.
Yeah.
So don't take my opinion as like women are the downfall of men. Just in these stories,
It just happened a lot in these old ass
in
stories.
these old stories.
Oh, I hated the wife.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
Lady Macbeth isn't that much better.
Lady Macbeth is like one of the most hated characters in all of like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
She's not the most hated, but she's up there.
The guy could have just done nothing. He could have done nothing.
Yep.
Let nature take its course.
Yeah.
But no, the wife is like, you don't know what Miki's going to do.
Except that nature didn't take its course, and that's why in Macbeth with the three witches, and why you have the forest witch here, it's an evil power that pushes over all of it, and again, it kind of assaults the idea of the feminine, because it's witches, it's witches in both. So it's a female perspective that is leading the just and the male to do evil and to be evil.
Well, I think it's for me. It's not necessarily for it to influence them to be evil. I think it's more like preying on the warmongering like thought process of people that were in the military, aspect of just nothing but conquering all the time. Like, you're in a society where you're just like, you've got Rome, and you've got like, Middle Ages Europe, and you have, these periods in Japan where it was nothing but warlords and warring, and it's the morality. If you add morality to that, which they did not, when those actual wars were happening, you add like a moral fable to it, and that gives you like a really nice story to tell, framed in the way that it's framed. I'm surprised. Ethan seemed like he was excited the whole time he was talking about this movie.
I fairly enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it.
You were able to recant the movie, which means it kept your interest from beginning to end. Like that to me is how I interpret that there.
Yeah, same.
That's good. I was going to ask, like, how familiar are you with like Macbeth?
I am familiar with. I have to admit, I mistook it for Hamlet.
Yeah.
But then,
if you don't know a lot about it, they can kind of run together.
But then once I watched it, I'm like, oh, it's the other way around. So I very much enjoyed it. I liked the movie as a whole. I kind of want to watch Hidden Fortress a little bit from what I've
that one's good too. They're all good. I mean, so you didn't mind the subtitles as much this time.
I don't have an issue with subtitles or anything like that,
right?
Because I'm used to watching anime subbed,
right,
dubbed, and so I don't have an
issue. Well, this is
with
also like this is a subtitled movie with like a more straightforward like story that was going on, because when we were watching, my brain shut right off. Stalker, that movie is like very esoteric and abstract,
and also deliberate. Some would say slow. I would say deliberate in the fact that you have these long pieces of dialogue interspersed with things that are actively playing with your head and actively playing with how you're watching it.
Every minute of the movie, except for the wandering in the forest and the fog, every minute had meaning.
Stuff was happening too, like all the time.
That wandering in the fog had meaning too.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
I'm also glad that you got to see the one that showcases Mifune.
He's all up in this one.
That's really great. Yeah.
Also, it'll hopefully get you interested in watching some of the other samurai films, the other Kurosawa films as well.
Absolutely.
And the other Mifune films.
Mifune films.
I think he has another like 10 or 11 with another director. As well.
I don't remember Mifune's in it, but Kurosawa did do a few modern time period movies. High and Low.
High and Low, yeah.
Which is really good. That movie is 2 movies in one. There's a kidnapping, and then they have to find a heroin den. It's like 2 separate plots, but they're tied together.
We chose not to do his newer like.
Well, we wanted to talk about. Specifically wanted to talk about samurai films, and the crazy thing is, like, even though there are samurai in these movies, you know, like Ron and Throne of Blood are Shakespearean the stories are based off of.
It could be interpreted in a different setting,
right?
And you still get the same story.
And one could say like, okay, well, like, yes, these are samurai films, but so is Sword of Doom, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
In that regard. But Seven Samurai is definitely a samurai movie. Yeah. It's not just a movie with samurai in it that you could I mean, you can't reskin it. They did it with Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
But
that's where I think the term Jidaigeki is a bit more powerful in this. And the fact it's not just the samurai; it's also workers.
The whole time period.
It's the whole time period of that era of Japan.
Yeah. Any more on Throne of Blood? All right.
So we're gonna move on to the film that I watched, and
happy one.
We're gonna end on a happier note. These are kind of sad. Although Rashomon is a little bit has a hopeful ending. It is like kind of a sad, like none of the forced versions of the story. The base story that they're telling is not a happy story.
I would definitely say sad, but for me, oppressive, and the scenes of the pouring rain in between when they're asides while the stories are being played about.
Yeah,
like it's to hammer home the fact that this is an oppressive, depressing story.
Yeah.
And the reason, and at the end with the rain gone, there's light there at the end of it.
This is going to be this one, the Yojimbo, which is roughly translates to bodyguard, came out in 1961. This was also kind of an adaptation. Kurosawa would always say that it's an adaptation of the Dashiell Hammett book, The Glass Key. But from what I've never read that book, but a lot of people are also saying it takes a little bit more from Red Harvest, which is another Dashiell Hammett book. This one was, some would say, ripped off by Sergio Leone into a fistful of dollars.
Specifically,
Kurosawa
said he ripped him off.
Kurosawa sued the shit out of him.
And to Leone's credit, he paid the man.
Yeah, he paid the man. But you could also argue, like, Kurosawa took a lot from these books, but he also, like, he was heavily influenced by John Ford westerns and westerns like Shane. Like, the motherfucker loved westerns. Like, that was his favorite fucking genre. So he took a lot from those older versions of it. And this is kind of one of the movies that really kind of led to another wave of westerns. It stars Toshiro Mifune as the titular Yojimbo, although that is not his name. And the name he gives is this movie like really, from what I saw, like it kind of upended the samurai genre, and it also like influenced the idea of the quote unquote the wandering mercenary kind of in westerns. It was like the man with no name and the wandering gunman. In this one, it's the wandering samurai. Who you don't really know anything about except what you see in the movies. Like you never learn about the man with no name. He's got 3 different names in 3 different movies. The main character in this one has 2 different names in 2 different movies. So it starts with, and also something about this one is the music is really, it's bombastic and it's kind of jaunty a lot. Like you almost feel like when Mifune's character is walking, he should be like kind of strutting from the way the music is. Like, it's a very weird, like it's music that they didn't do the music in samurai movies like this before this. So we get Mifune's character, he's the first thing that you see, and he's just like in this kind of plain kimono. He's got disheveled hair. He's got, a stubbly beard. You can tell that like he's just been walking down the road for a while now. He does this cool thing where he is I guess a lot of like the way men would use kimonos is they would kind of tuck their arms in the kimono, and he'll pull his arm through and kind of scratch his beard. And then he also has this really cool or this really interesting like little tick where he like kind of rolls his shoulders. And it's because Kurosawa told him, your character is like a stray dog or a wolf. So that's kind of like the idea of a wolf that has fleas, and he's kind of shaking them off. Does it all throughout the film. He comes to a crossroads and he just throws a stick up in the air, and the direction that it points in, that's where he goes. He comes to this farmhouse where this young guy is arguing with his parents and saying that he's going to go, join up with this gang and make a lot of money gambling. And they get mad, and he's like, "Hey, can I have some water?" And the guy sits there and sips the water while the old man is complaining about the young people these days and how they don't want to work for anything and they just want to make easy money. He's probably going to go off and die. He goes into town, and how do you find out? How do you show that a town is not a good place to be? You show a dog walking through with a human hand in his mouth, and he just kind of looks at it. And it's just like, oh, okay, well, shit. He goes to a restaurant. Old man lets him in. This cranky old man who becomes kind of like this becomes kind of the central hub for the character. And he basically lays out like hey, you don't need to stay here. This is a bad place to be. We got two warring gangs because the head guy chose his son to be Sebe. He chose his son to be the next guy in line. And the guy who was second in command, Ushitora, decided he didn't like that, so he broke off into his gang, and now they're having a gang war. The sake guy, the guy who does all the sake in the town, he joined up with Ushitora, and the guy who does all the silk in the town, he joined up with Sebe, and they're all fighting. They keep gathering up ne'er-do-wells from the surrounding areas, and it's going to be a big gang war. People are dying left and right. Nobody can make any money anymore. You just need to get out of here. And he's like, well, hey, two warring people. That sounds like a place where I can make some money. And before he walks out, he also he goes by Ushitora's house, and all of his men kind of jump out and give him dirty look. And he goes like, hey, so how is everything? And he's like, yeah, well, Sebe is not doing as well right now. He tells him, he shows him also that Ushitora, his brother, one of his brothers is coming back from recruiting some people. Tells him this guy's really is a dumb guy. His one of his brothers is like super dumb. He's an idiot. And he's also this character, Kichi is the brother. His guy, the guy who plays him, was also in Seven Samurai. He was the main samurai's like second in command guy. A lot of people in this one were in other things. So he is like, okay, I think I got an idea. Mifune's character, he walks out and he goes by Sebe's house. Sebe also runs the brothel. Well, his wife runs the brothel. So he's like, hey, Sebe, you might want to come out and watch this. I'm for sale. You want me, I'm good, but I cost a high price. Let me show you how good I am. So he goes back over to Ushitora's house. Oh, we also find out that the guy in the restaurant, the only happy guy in town is the guy who's making caskets. We hear him next door, and he's like happily singing, and like you hear.
That's the thing in a fistful, because the Undertaker's the only one making money.
Oh yeah. There are like a lot of this is like very close, but there are some differences, and I'll go over them when we get to them. Mifune's character goes back over to Ushitora's house, and they all come back out, and three of the guys in particular are like telling him like, yeah, I'm badass. You better walk away. We're gonna fuck you up. I have the death sentence on 3-star systems, basically. Like, he's like, don't fucking mess with you. And he like, and Mifune's character basically insults them until they start attacking them, and he cuts them all down 3 minutes and 3 seconds. That's his thing. It takes him a second to kill a man. He kills 2 of them outright and then cuts the other one's arm off, and you see the arm laying there with blood just all over the place. And as he's walking back towards the restaurant, the old man and the casket maker out there. He's like, hey, casket maker, get 2 caskets. And then he looks back and goes, nah, I better make that 3. So then, of course, Sebe wants to talk to him now. And he's like, okay, I'll hire you. And he talks him up to, he's like, hey, what's your name? And as he looks and he's like, my name, and he kind of looks out the window and there's a mulberry field out there. And he says, my name is Sanjuro Kuwabatake, which translates to 30-year-old mulberry field. And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm almost 40, but that's what we're going to go with. So if you look at it, his name is Sanjuro, but that's obviously not his real name. So they go, okay, yeah, I'll hire you. And he keeps like lowballing. He's like, I'll give you 1 Rio. And he's like, no, he eventually talks him up to like 50 Rio. And he's like, we're going to attack Ushitora today. And we're gonna end this once and for all. And with you there, we definitely have a shot. I'll give you 25 now and 25 later. And he goes, done. And he's like, well, okay, you wait here. I got to talk some stuff out. So he follows Sebe, and Sebe gets to talking with his wife, who is the main wife in Throne of Blood. I have her name, Isuzu Yamada. She is also the wife in Throne of Blood. She's not quite as bad in this one, but she is a bit of a bitch. So she's like, why the fuck are you paying this guy 50 Rio? That's way too fucking much. Here's what we're gonna do. As soon as we get done taking out Ushitora, we're gonna kill him and we're gonna take the money back. And he's like, oh, okay, I got it.
She really likes abdicating for murder.
Oh yeah. She goes straight to that shit. They all rush out. One of the guys who I can't remember what his name is, but he's like, they call him the master something. He's insulted because he's like, I don't get paid near close to 50 Rio. I am obviously of a less of a station of this guy. So he like doesn't even like look him in the eye. And he's like, okay, we're gonna run out and we're going to, in broad daylight, start a fight and we're gonna take him out. And with this guy and the master, we got this. So as they're all getting up and getting ready, Sanjuro fucking looks out the window and the master has a little like bindle and he's running out and he hops over the fence and like just goes, hey, bye. And he's like, oh, okay, I got this. So they go out and they have a face off. Sebe comes out and they calls out Ushitora, and Ushitora's men comes out and they have one big, I don't know what Japanese people are obsessed with. Like if there's a giant Japanese man, he's going to be in one of these fucking movies. So the other side has like a big giant Japanese dude. And just as soon as they're about to come out, as soon as they're about to fight, Sanjuro's like, nah, on the other hand, here's your money back. I'm not going to fight. You said you were going to kill me as soon as this was over. I'm good. So he goes right in the middle of town on the side, there's like a fire watch tower. So he goes and climbs up the fire watch tower and sits on them. And there's like this, the wife is like, well, you can't chicken out now. You got to start. So they all they do this kind of tentative thing where like one side will run up and the other side will kind of jump forward and then they'll run back and they'll run up and they'll run back and they'll run. Like he does this back and forth and Sanjuro is just laughing his ass off. And then finally somebody comes from outside the town and comes in and is like, hey, there's an inspector coming. Everybody better get their shit straight. Sarah goes, oh shit. And they run off. Then the inspector comes and he's like seeing the mayor and seeing the crooked sheriff who's a little piece of shit. And Sanjuro's like, oh, this might put a damper on my plans. And we cut to, and it's like 10 days later, and he's like, Jesus Christ, when will this guy leave? Ushitora comes to seize him. He's like, hey, I want you on my side. I'll pay you this much. And he goes, nah, that's not good enough. You need to raise the price a little bit. And he's like, well, fuck you then. So, and they eventually, they do that. And then it's 10 days later. And then he's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's never going to leave. And then all of a sudden he hears like, oh, the guy's going to, no, Ushitora comes and says like, hey, I know that the guy's about to leave because a magistrate was murdered in this other town, and I want to. He's got to go take care of that. And he's like, "Oh, did you have anything to do with that?" And he's like, "I might have." And then he's like, "No, that's too much of a low ball. You gotta raise the price a little bit. I'm worth a little bit more." Then as the magistrate leaves, he's like, "Okay, yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good." It's been a little bit. Then he sees like, "Oh, nobody's coming to offer more." And then he hears, "Oh, Ushitora's other brother, Unosuke, he's back and he's brokered a peace because they want to have a silk festival so that they can actually make some money." And now he sees and he kind of like opens the window and sees the brother. And this is Tetsuya Nakadai. The main character in Sword of Doom, Harakiri. He's like he's like one of the 3 or 4 like top. If somebody plays a fucking samurai, it's him, it's Mifune, the dude who plays Zatoichi. Like there's like 4 like really big actors when it comes to like samurai.
Dude
films.
plays the main guy in Sword of Doom's badass.
Yeah, he's also phenomenal in and I didn't even know it was him until I looked it up in Harakiri. Sanjuro is kind of dirty and disheveled. Inosuke, he's very prim and proper. He has a scarf on. He's got a silk kimono, and his big thing is he's standing there with the sheriff. Wind's blowing too. Like the wind and dust is like they imported dust from like an old machine gun range that was nearby. His big thing is that he has a pistol, which is very rare in this time. And he'll have his arms tucked in and like he'll just kind of poke the pistol through the kimono. He shoots a bell and he's like, "Hey, this is cool." The actor said that Kurosawa told him that he was like a snake, so to model it after that.
Oh,
Sanjuro's like, "Oh, we can't be having peace. I need to make money." So it just so happens that like not long after that, the 2 guys who actually went and killed the magistrate, they're in that restaurant and they're fucking getting drunk off their asses. So Sanjuro follows them when they leaves and captures them, takes them to Sebe, and is like, "Hey, you can use these guys to as hostages." And we'll go and do that. So they go and do that, but then they find out that Ushitora has kidnapped Sebe's son. So now they're like, fuck. I can't kill these guys. So they go to have a handoff in the middle of the night. And they also show that Sebe has a particular woman with him. And we find out later that this woman was, and I remember what they do. They kill the 2 guys, but then they find out that the other side has the woman, and the woman is basically like collateral for the sake guy, because the sake guy thought this chick was really hot, and her husband got into deep gambling problem, got into deep debt, and because he has a hot wife, they not only took his house, they took his wife, and now the husband has a like little shack beside the house, so he can hear the wife getting ravaged every night.
Wow,
I'm not lying. That's what they say. So he's really pathetic. So they have a second handoff during the day, and the kid comes into the restaurant from the back and is like, "Oh, I want to see mama. And he starts freaking. He sees her and he like starts freaking out, and she starts freaking out and running towards the restaurant. Makes a big scene. They make the handoff. Sanjuro like gets the whole story of everything. He's like, "Oh man, this dude's pathetic. He fucking sucks. What the hell?" So what he does is he gets some money. He gets some money from I think it's Sebe to be his bodyguard. He's like, I'll be your bodyguard. No, Ushitori. He gets some money from him and is like, "I'll be your bodyguard now. I'll give you 25 now and 25 later." And he takes that money and is like, "Hey, where are they? What's with the girl? I want to make sure that like we're all secure, because like if they can get to this girl, that's a big problem. Again, we don't want that to happen again." It's like, "No, don't worry. We got 6 guys watching her over here." And he's like, "Well, how about I go with the dumb brother and go check this out because we just want to make sure because that's a weak point. We don't want to get we lose her, we're fucked. They go and he like walks over. They're like going to the house, and then he gets to like, and he's like, "Hey, dumb brother, isn't that the house where that idiot little pathetic dude stays?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta beat his ass for bringing his kid around. He wasn't supposed to." So he goes over there and he goes and beats his ass, starts beating the dude's ass, and then Sanjuro comes back up and is like, "Hey, oh, you gotta run and tell him all the guys are dead. The woman's gone. I don't know where the hell they are." And he's like, "Oh shit, let me go run and tell him." And then he goes back in there, is like knocks on the door, is like, "Hey," and kills all the good dudes, just murders the shit out of them. gives the lady and her husband and her kid the money. It's like, "Hey, go," but they want to stay. They want to like bow to him and shit and like be. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing, you idiots? Go, go, go!" He finally shoos them away, and then he wrecks the house. They come back and it's like, "Oh shit, yeah, look at them. They're all dead. They attacked it. They attacked, and it had to be 15 men." It's just one dude. And then they're like, "Oh, god damn it!" So they there's kind of like a little war where they burn down the silk guy's warehouse, and then the other side bursts all the big vats of sake. So yeah, this like a big difference of a fistful of dollars is at the end of like that town is still standing at the end of this house. This town is a wreck after this. So there's like a little war. Sanjuro's just kind of chilling at the restaurant, and the old man is like, "Hey, I knew you weren't a piece of shit. The guy came back and the husband came back and told me what you did, and he even wrote you this thank you note. Well, and he's like, get that shit away from me. What the fuck? I'm not a good dude." Well, as soon as he does this, Inosuke comes in with the dumb brother and is like, "Hey, I don't think that Sebe's men did all that. I think somebody killed all those men and let this lady go. You know why I know this? Because my brother was out recruiting and he saw a dude who said he saw the wife just traipsing around in the mountains." And as they do that, there's a really fun shot where they're sitting at a table, and Sanjuro's sword is like leaning over, and you see him kind of like inch his finger over to the sword. And as soon as he does that, Inosuke pulls out the pistol. It's like, I gotcha. The restaurant guy tries to grab he gives him some more sake, and he tries to grab the thank you note, but Inosuke catches him and sees it. So they capture Sanjuro and beat the ever-loving piss out of him. Like he's just sitting there, he's laying there barely able to move. They got the big giant dude like just working the shit out of him. They try and question him. The sake guy comes in and is like, "Hey, where's the girl?" And he's like, "I don't fucking know. I'm not telling you." So they beat the shit out of him again, and then they leave him. They lock him in the room, and there's a chest in the room. And luckily, when the big guy was throwing him around, he broke the lock on the chest. So he climbs up into the chest. So when the guys come back and they see, oh shit, nobody's there, so they run off and try and look for him. He climbs out, and then he climbs up under the floorboards. So Japanese houses, like they're all like elevated. So he's like climbing through, and it's a really cool tense scene that's not in Fistful of Dollars. He kind of escapes kind of wackily, and like I think he rolls a barrel into a giant barrel into a dude in Fistful of Dollars, and he just kind of escapes. In this one, like there's a tense scene where he is like crawling underneath, and he has to stop when he hears people, and like he's trying to figure out a place to get by, and then Inosuke comes by, and he's like, oh shit. Like he pokes his head out, and then he's like, oh shit, and then he like has to like painstakingly crawl out and then crawl back to the restaurant. He's like, hey, old man, hide me. They come by there, and he's like, tell them I went to Sebe's. They come in, the old guy's like, yeah, he went to Sebe's, and they're like, okay. And then so they're like, how do we get you? We got to get you out of town. How do we do that? Go buy a coffin. So he gets the coffin maker, and they're carrying him out with a coffin. And as they're doing this, Ushitora is just burning Sebe's house down. They're like, fuck this shit. He was like, hey, hold on. I want to watch this. So he watches, and yeah, people keep they keep running out. Eventually, like all the women run out, and then Sebe's wife tries to run out too, but they catch her. The dumb brother kills her. Sebe and his son walk out, and he's like, "Hey, don't just. You can have everything. You got it all. You got it all." They kill him. They kill his son, and he's like, okay. I think we better go now. The coffin maker has already run off. It's like, shit. How are we gonna get you over there? How are we gonna get you out of town? Well, the dumb brother's walking around looking like an idiot. So he's like, hey, you got to go get him and talk him into taking us. So they talk the dumb brother into taking him to the cemetery. It's really funny scene because he's just like, hey, I'll help you bury him now. It's like, no. Don't you got to go looking for the dude? He's like, oh shit, yeah, they'll kill me. I gotta go. So he hides out. So Sanjuro hides out in a little temple that's there by the cemetery. It's a really cool scene where you can see like he's getting back into shape because he's throwing a knife at a leaf, and he keeps like catching it. Like he'll get the knife back, and then he'll let so that's really cool. The knife is very important. The knife was like the restaurant owner, the old man, like gave him the knife in the casket when he was getting the dumb brother. He's like, just in case. It comes into play later. He's fine enough to feel like he's moving in it or moving around and everything. Then somebody comes over. He expects it to be the old man, but no, it's the coffin maker. And the coffin maker is like, oh, they caught the old man because he had like food and medicine. And so they knew that he was coming to get you. So they beat the shit out of him and they tied him up. And he's like, oh, well, I guess I got to take care of that. And he's like, well, good thing about being a casket maker is that I always have some swords laying around, some dead men's swords. So he takes the sword. Oh, and before this, things had escalated to where there are literally bodies piled up all over the town. Like the town is completely fucked. It's so bad that like the casket maker was weeping because he was like, well, when it gets this bad, they don't even bother with caskets. So what's the point? It's like one of the best shots in the fucking movie is now you see the old man, they have him like tied up and like hanging. Like he's tied up around his waist with his arms, but he's like hanging up and he's like kind of spinning around, and he's in the foreground. You see the men are like fucking with him, and then they look to the distance and see Sanjuro walking down the big thoroughfare. So it's the old man in the foreground. All the men like line up in the midground, and then way in the back you see Sanjuro coming, and he's got his arms tucked in and everything. Really, really cool shot. By the way, to build this period accurate village cost them 30 million yen. Like, and it was
the majority of the production budget went to building this town.
Yeah. So they
actually, I take that back. I think it was a third of the budget.
Yeah,
I think it was like 90
lot.
million yen.
And then they burned half of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They there was a cool story in the little behind the scenes thing where they were telling the production designer guy that like, Kurosawa was like really nervous because he was like, look, he built roofs, so I'm gonna shoot roofs. Like he'll get mad at me if he puts all this effort in and I don't shoot this shit. He was like, oh, okay. But yeah, so there's a big face off. We got Sanjuro coming down the way. They're lining up. Unosuke is in front, and they're slowly walking towards each other. And Unosuke pulls out his pistol and is like, hey, don't move. And this really like Cheshire grin comes across Sanjuro's face, and he just starts walking faster. And he pulls out his sword, and he pulls out the knife that he had. And as the Inosuke shoots, he throws the knife and hits him in the arm that's holding the pistol, so he can't shoot it at him anymore. Cuts him down. Cuts down 10 other men cuts down 10 men in 10 seconds. Kills them all. Doesn't quite kill Inosuke. Inosuke is laying down on the ground, face down on the ground with like blood just pouring out. And he's like, hey, you seem like a nice guy. Could you do me a favor? I feel kind of naked without my gun. Could you please give it to me so I can at least have it in my hands when I die? And he's like, oh, he walks over and he gives him the gun. And then Inosuke has this kind of smile on his face, and he tries to lift up the gun. And he's like, oh shit, I can't do it. And he tries and he shoots the gun twice into the ground and just kind of falls back down. He's like, "Hey, I'll see you on the other side." And then Sanjuro walks over to the old man and the casket maker cut him down and all while they were facing off, and just like pulls out his sword, cuts the rope, and he's like, "Okay, see you guys." And then he just walks off, and that's the end of the movie. He's like, "I guess the town's okay now. Bye." The town is not okay. There's like 2 people in this town now.
Yeah, population 2.
Yeah. So,
well, I think he specifically says something because it's been a while, but I think he says something like, "Well, town's quiet now."
yeah,
They're all dead.
Quiet. Town's quiet now. Bye bye. And then he walks off, and he just kind of just saunters off.
Yep.
But yeah, the big thing that I paid attention with this one is the idea of this, the idea that the character of Sanjuro, the reverberation that it had throughout like westerns after this, like this starts the, it's the lone gunman, it's the lone samurai, the man with the idea of this man with no name that gets copied forever and ever in westerns. This
in games too, lone survivor for Fallout.
He's stoic. He talks when it's necessary, but he doesn't talk too much. He's clever. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
He's not wholly good, but he's also not sadistic or evil.
Right.
Like
if you balance his moralities, he comes out on the good end, but he doesn't really suffer fools or the foolhardy, like just not at all.
And he cares about money. Like he's not usually,
he plays sides.
He can be altruistic, but he is not.
He definitely
fully
plays sides. Yeah.
But he usually has some angle out of it.
Yeah.
In this movie, like he doesn't end up with any fucking money. He just walks off.
Right.
Well, there's no one to pay him in the town anymore.
He's wandering, never puts down roots. Can be humorous. The difference, a big difference between Sanjuro, the man with no name, is humorous, kind of accidentally. Like he tells a joke, but he doesn't mean it as a joke. Sanjuro can be funny,
right?
What's the line at the end of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Some people shoot guns and some people.
No, he's like, there's two kinds of people. There are those with guns and those that dig. You dig. A big thing is that you never know anything about his past. You never even really get his name. He gives Sanjuro is his name in Sanjuro, the sequel to this, but he uses a different name, and it has to do with whatever like floral thing, like whatever bush or whatever he's looking at the time. So you never know about his past. He's calm, he's cool, he's collected, and just like the idea of it, and he's unbelievable. Like he's unstoppably good at the one thing. Like Sanjuro with his sword cannot be beaten. Man with no name with his gun cannot be beaten. You take those away, he gets the shit beat out of him. He's not good. He's
right.
Like
I'm nothing without my gun.
Yeah, they both get their ass beat as soon as you take away their weapons. But with their weapons, they can kill a person a second, just about. Yeah. It has some kind of like tick or like look or like some kind of like physical thing.
Right.
Toshiro Mifune is like physical acting in all of these movies, and then all the other movies. Like Seven Samurai, like his physical acting is like so fucking good.
Yeah.
But this one, he's also like, it's more reserved, but it's also like really like you can tell so much from this character just from like the chin scratch thing,
the body
he
language
does, and the body language and everything. So fucking good. Another thing about this one is it almost all of these shots are with a telephoto lens, which means it's a wider aperture. So they had to like Kurosawa would get kind of like obsessed with like a specific filmmaking technique or something like that, and he'd want to do it throughout the entirety of a movie. And this is the one where it's all a telephoto lens. It's also this is according to them, the first movie to use sound effects for slicing human bodies. They didn't like, this is where they started pushing a little bit more, because they were really reserved in the earlier movies, because they wanted these movies to be able to shown in America, but they didn't want the censors to chop the shit out of them. Right. And this is the first one where they start moving from that. Then you also have the accidental blood spray in Sanjuro.
Right.
Where there is a supposed to be a blood effect when Sanjuro cuts a man down, and it malfunctions, and it is a fire hydrant of blood. And that really affected. And I think from what I read, Kurosawa, both of these movies, he kind of regretted how much violence there was in this, because there's even like the guy was telling the story of like he had the hands made and he went to show them to Kurosawa, and Kurosawa was the guy who came up with the idea, but he came to show him. He was like, no, I trust you. I don't want to see any of that junk. I don't want to see it up close. I'm good. I
only want to see it when it's time to shoot it.
Yeah. And that guy had to come in while he was like deathly ill. Like he was like, hey, we're shooting today. I can't. But so they shot it, and then he was like, Kurosawa was like, you need to go home. One of the things that they talk about here is Kurosawa was often a hard ass, but he was still really respected because he wasn't just like a ladies director who ordered people around and yelled and berated people. Like he did the work too.
Right.
There was a story of when he saw the town, he was like, something's amiss. And they actually had pictures of like late towns from that era. And he or later in the era, and he was like, look at how it is, like the way when it rains and it comes down on the roofs, like it washes the road away, so there's like rocks and stuff, and like the road is a little bit elevated because of the runoff. So what they had to do there was they had to get firefighters out there with a couple of fire trucks, and for like a whole day they sprayed water on the roof so it ran down and looked accurate. And they also told a story of the same cinematographer who was in Rashomon was in this one. I think he kind of was the cinematographer for everything. One of the cameramen told a story of Kurosawa was like yelling at him. He was like, okay, I'll do that. And he was like, and the cameraman was like, hey, you're like really respected and everything. Like, why do you let him yell at you? And he was like, well, I listened to him because look at him. If like something needs to be done, like he'll do it. Like he works his ass off, and I respect him a lot.
Right.
So I'm not going to argue with him, and I'm not going to fight with him. And he was like, yeah, I worked with him on later films with like lesser directors, and yeah, if he thought a director was wrong, he would say something, but he never did that with Kurosawa because he respected him so much. And that was really a lot of like when they were interviewing actors and people who worked on, they interviewed like the script supervisor and stuff like that, how respected he was. Like he could be a hard ass and he would yell and berate people, but he never did it so much that like the people like hated him. So yeah, that's all I got for Yojimbo.
Definitely going to be
a 1968 screening of Yojimbo in the planned community of Columbia, Maryland, was considered too violent for the viewers in the theater, causing the host to hide in the bathroom to avoid the audience. Yojimbo was so violent, it caused people to be violent against the violence of the movie.
It really, like, after this movie, and especially Sanjuro, like, the violence in samurai movies, like, really, like started raising. And like I said, from what I read, Kurosawa kind of, regretted that because he I don't know, he didn't like violence.
That wasn't the message he was trying to send. I know, but Sword of Doom is amazing, and because of all the all this shit, like that's one of the best non-Kurosawa samurai movies I've ever seen.
Sword of Doom is great.
But if everybody listening liked any of those movies that we talked about, you should check them out. Plus, most of other Akira Kurosawa films and samurai movies and TV shows as well. We've talked about Zatoichi.
There was that. I didn't know this. I need to find this. There was a Zatoichi versus Yojimbo where Mifune reprised.
I didn't know about that either.
Reprised Yojimbo. So I've watched a few Zatoichi movies, but I really need to check that out.
Stay away from Dodesco Den. That is a depressing movie about a train station that Kurosawa did.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Just that's my one. That's my one. Don't watch.
They recently remade Ikaru with they called it something else.
That's the Idiot, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
With what's his name? Fucking Davy Jones.
Bill Nighy.
Bill Nighy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like a couple of years ago.
All right.
Can't remember what it's called.
Well, yeah, if you like listening to us talk about all these Kurosawa films, you should check them out and give us feedback on movies you'd like for us to talk about in the future, maybe. That being said, we'd like to thank McNarb Gaming for this lovely space. It's after 2:00 in the morning, and some of us have to be up in 5 hours to work. So I'm Jody Kite.
I'm Ethan Skinner.
I'm James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis.
We'll keep the lights on.